Welcome to episode 16 of the Business of Real Estate podcast with Lynn, Hoffmann, and Eric Johnson. Today, we are talking about creating a unique client experience, and we are joined by a special guest, Conrad Zurini, broker owner of RE/MAX Escarpment and RE/MAX Niagara. And this is a special episode. You guys are in for a treat. Okay, we are back. And Lynn, I'm going to have you introduce our special guest today, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
You've known him longer than I have, so.
Well, Lynn is my work wife, so yeah. So
okay,
full disclosure,
no
and her husband knows it too. So.
But on a serious note, Conrad Zurini is our fearless leader. He is certainly one of the most entrepreneurial men that I've ever met. He's been a two-time recipient of a Broker of the Year award.
Three times, yes.
Oh, that's going to go right to your head. Three-time recipient. Multiple other awards. He's a keynote speaker across Europe and all across the United States, and more recently into South America as well. Always has great information, so I want you to listen very closely to what he has to say today. And we're so happy that you're here with us today.
Thank you for that introduction. Thank you.
Welcome.
I've been waiting. I had to wait for 16 episodes.
We can't show favoritism. We can't show favoritism.
No, but I've been watching. You've got some really great guests and some really cool perspectives. So very good. Thank you. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, when we created the podcast, it was really for not just for agents around the world, but also for, team leaders, broker owners.
Yep.
And I think we can all agree that creating that unique customer experience is just as important for broker of record and broker owner, because the agents are your clients. And so as a brokerage, we've been very fortunate that we've, high retention. Mm-hmm. We've been one of the top retention across North America. We
won net gain twice in Canada. So definitely,
And
2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm. I also look at the beginning of the Zurini family. So if I look at the Zurinis had Del Mar. Mm-hmm. And then when you took over RE/MAX Escarpment, so let's just talk a little bit about that, just real quick, because how many agents were there at the beginning? That was 12, 13 years ago?
Yeah, about that. Yeah, and we were at a crossroads. We were at a time in our career that the business cycle that we either had to expand something fierce or maybe even sell. And sell the business. I think that's what happens to a lot of brokers. They don't realize when the best time to sell. So could have gone either way. And I was fortunate to kept nudging this other brokerage over and over again. And they had a big technological problem that happened Christmas at Christmas time. And they're believing that their email was shut down for 3 to 4 weeks over the holidays. So can you imagine?
No.
I'm going back to 2010, right? Yep. So 2010, 2009, 2010. Well, they knew we were very technologically savvy, and they thought, after that whole incident, they called and said, Conrad, I think we should start to talk because we barely made it out of this. So at the time, when we did the merger, we had 85 people the day before the merger, and then after the merger, we were just under 300. After the merger, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then it's grown to how many now?
We're probably at 1,000. Yeah, 1,000. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's been significant growth, which you don't get unless you've created a good client experience.
Yeah, we made some mistakes along the way, but you're right. It is totally a client experience. I think we've, if you chart our growth, we can see where we didn't get engagement from the agents, and we really had to beef up our onboarding. I think that onboarding. So we would bring them in. Bring them in with all these great tools and services, but then we just couldn't back it up with people and resources and all that kind of thing. So we would lose people. People would not get engaged. We were lucky. We got a lot of them back. We went back and, because they had a relationship with us, so we went back and said, look, we didn't do well by you back then. Can I tell you this new story about RE/MAX Escarpment, right? And Niagara. And I will say, look, Lynn, a lot of our growth too came when Lynn came aboard and helped us expand into other territories that we weren't heavily in, and we didn't have the market share in Burlington. Lynn came and we created that market share in Burlington, and Oakville was a great great thing that we did. And because I'll tell you something, when you're a small brokerage and even an agent in a smaller business, you run paranoid, and if you're not growing, I always felt if you're not growing, you're dying. And if you're not looking at expanding, because this watering hole, I keep saying, is getting smaller and smaller. And if you don't expand your niches, your geo-farm area, or whatever it might be, your specialties, it's you're going to see a retraction. So that's been our whole MO, right?
Yeah, done a lot of growth. It's been a fantastic journey as well. I started in 2017 when you were opening the first luxury office in Canada. And that's what I was tasked with to start, and it's been a tremendous growth. When I look now at our website, our new website that we've just put out,
yes, beautiful.
It's just absolutely beautiful. So the growth there is phenomenal. But again, all of those things, all of the reason why, and I do believe we were top 2 in the world in net recruits.
Yes, we were. Yeah, in the world. Yes,
in the world,
yes,
net
in the
recruits.
World, yeah.
The whole part of that is because of what you do and what the team does to take care of the client and give them that fantastic experience.
Absolutely.
So I know a lot of the things that you do that help with that, things that people tell me all the time. One is your birthday call.
Yeah, it's funny. When we took over the 2 companies, this is interesting. I was with the people that we bought it from, and I gave everybody my cell phone number, and they looked at me like, "You got to be insane." You're gonna, and you know what? That night, I must have returned at least 150, 200 texts that night from everybody. Just feeling good and that kind of thing, and having that access. So and I've always done the birthday calls. I've never not done that. I felt I always say the thing. There's 2 things that your sellers and buyers want, and your agents, that you're always thinking of them, and that you're an expert in the industry. And those are the two key factors in all this. And then you just layer it with great people and resources. And what you're doing too, Eric, like you're helping people with what I love, the last mile, in terms of your business audits and doing coaching and things like that. Because some people need just to get to that last mile, and I think they can't do it on their own, and they need people like ourselves. And we were nowhere in luxury, Lynn, nowhere in luxury. We weren't on the radar screen. And Lynn said, "Look, I've got an idea to build this and grow it." And I'm humbled when I went on the new website, looked at the listings. They said, "Our people have this kind of listings, 15, 20 million."
Really
So it was pretty amazing stuff, right?
But another thing that agents always tell me, and they can take what I'm going to say and relate it back to their business as well, but they always say to me, everybody's always available. You are always available for them. I know you probably don't think so, but that's a really rare thing for a broker owner, a broker of record, to be that available and to give out a cell phone. And we don't have 85 people now, we've got 1,000 people now.
Yeah.
And you always answer your phone. And you're not on some island somewhere, sipping a martini. You might like to be, but you're not. And,
not quite yet.
we don't realize how much they do appreciate that, but they do appreciate that. And it is a rare thing. And
well, even their staff, even their administrators and things like that, like we're not, maybe I'm not always answering, but sometimes we are, because some people want, they want to know how to use the HPI, so I'll get an administrator calling me, so-and-so said you know all about it. I'll sit down and talk about the HPI, and you're answering, we're all accessible. It really makes, that's that last mile that makes so much, a lot of times I'm put on the phone when they're with their clients.
Yes.
You know what
Me
I mean?
too.
So,
That's on the spot.
And on the spot. But I got to tell the dumbest story. It's crazy today. So my power went out today. So somewhere around 3 a.m. I don't know. Did you? Because you're close to me. Did your power go? It was 4,000.
Yeah.
A tree fell and hit it.
A tree fell. Yes.
So
Right.
this is the total analogy of this whole, like what this company and the people and everything like that. So the power goes down, and I have a 7 o'clock workout with my trainer, and I text her. I said, "Look, and I train in my basement." So I have little tiny windows. So it's kind of dark. There's no light down there. So I text her right away, and I said, "Look, you know what? The power's off. I don't know if you're going to be able to see me, but I'd still like to do it. I'll put candles. We'll do whatever it takes. Candles, flashlights, whatever it takes to make this happen, right?" So anyway, she goes, "I'm game if you're game, right? Whatever." And I just moved things around so some of the natural light would catch it, and she could catch me when I made my mistakes. And the cool thing was I could get away with a little murder today, but I did it. But I still went through it, and that's the thing, right? So you power through. I know that's not adversity, but you kind of power through, changing market and all that kind of stuff. You got to power through. And then the other little thing was, so today, you don't realize when you don't have power, right? I usually have oatmeal. So the thing is, how was I going to do my oatmeal today? So I normally do it in my microwave, right? I do it in my microwave, God bless me, right? And whatever, 3 minutes on low power, whatever. And fine. So today I had to make it on the stove. I have a gas stove, so I'm very lucky. Now the first thing, I turn on my stove. It's not lighting. Well, I realize electricity to spark it. So I get a lighter, light it, done. And I do it on the stove. And it's instead of 3 minutes, it's 7 minutes. But I did it, God bless me. Anyway, when I tasted that stovetop fucking oatmeal, it had a completely different flavor. It had a richer flavor. Like that's the way it was intended to be made. So you see, the funny thing is, I thought to myself, do I start making this for myself all the time like this? But that's what going that extra mile is about. That's what our customers, that's what our agents want. They want stovetop oatmeal all the time. And when you put it in the microwave, it's okay, but that's something that we've assembled people around us. And that's where, today embodied, rolling up your sleeves, figuring it out. And then the other part was going that extra mile, and doing something a little bit more special. And I thought, this is a great story to tell today on the podcast, because that's what it's all about every day.
Yeah.
It's about stovetop candles and stovetop oatmeal.
For me, it just reminds me of old school. It reminds me of old school because, like you said, we've gotten into, I say to people, we've gotten into a society, we had that fast food society thing where we want it quick. So everybody, even agents wanted, how do I do this quickly? I don't want to do all the work. Now we've gotten to a point where I call it the Amazon society, is that, because we do a lot of classes, and I'll get somebody, I remember a couple of people on one of my classes, and I just started. I'm like 5 minutes in, and they're asking a question that would be covered later on, but they want to get their answer and get off.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the Amazon meaning that I'll put an order in, and oh, shoot, Lynn, did you want to order something? Oh, well, we put in a separate order. Then we put in separate orders. We don't do one big one. And so people really, not only do they want it all, like quickly, they want everything given to them, but they also want it, this little thing here. And if you go back to old school, it was creating that experience and having the conversations, and we built great relationships. And I think that's what's missing a lot of times, because everybody just wants to be able to send an email and not actually have the conversation. Because it's almost like creating a unique client experience is like, let's go back and do it the old way.
Well, and taking that time, and that I love that instant gratification. Yeah, you're right. It's so instant. But just taking that extra time, and we are transitioning. Like this market is very unique, like all markets. But this is an opportunity for those agents to rise to the occasion and take a little more time and really discuss and do a deeper dive into what is happening in the market. There's so many things. The other day I was doing Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls, there was a property in Niagara Falls. It was the #1 most searched property. Spoke to the agent. The agent said, look, we've not had a ton of showings. She was very surprised that there was a lot of activity online. And it was listed at a price around, it was $679. So what I did was, normally I'll do a deeper dive into the community. So what I thought was, I'm going to go in, look at what's happening in Niagara Falls. So the sales to listing ratio, which is whenever you hear about it, if it's 50-50, so if there's 100 listings, 100 sales, 200 listings, it's 50%. That's a balanced market, right? So if it was 150 and 200, we're at 75%. Now that's totally seller's market. And if it's 25, if it's 50 sales, you're 25%. So you're definitely in buyer's territory. So less of the inventory is being absorbed. So I found out all of Niagara Falls was 36%. The entire, all of Niagara Falls, all of it. So 1 out of every 3 listings was selling in Niagara Falls, no matter the price point. But then I started to whittle it down a little bit. So I did this. I said, okay, what's happening between 6 and 700,000? It was 31%. So between 6 and 700,000 was doing less, like there was less sales, okay? It was a smaller number. It was really in buyer territory, even compared to the whole city. Then I went 550 to 650. I tried to find that magic number, like a slide rule. So I found 550 to 650. It was 52%. So now it's not a matter of I'm going to reduce it 10,000 or 20,000. We've really got to position it. It's pricing with with precision,
Yeah.
to the market, but also positioning it. Where is it positioned where you're going to get the most amount of people looking at it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
and then get some activity. So again, it's all about doing that little deeper dive and just don't take things for granted. And we're about numbers, and Lynn
Yeah.
knows it, and
Yeah.
Eric,
Science.
we're a numbers orientation. I think there's a lot of science to this business, and people don't realize that these numbers really can move the needle and help your client sell their home that much faster.
I want to say, I want to recap a couple of things you
Yeah.
said there for everybody, because we go pretty fast.
Pretty fast,
but
yeah.
You said some things like do what it takes, right? Power through,
Yes.
like this morning.
Yeah.
Be adaptable, like the oatmeal.
Yeah.
Go old school. That's
Yes.
voice to voice, face to face, belly to belly if you want. And I'm going to throw in another one. You need to listen to them. Listen to what they're really telling you. Don't just take the surface talk. Dig deeper.
Yep.
Listen, and then provide that service that they're looking for in that. And that could be your statistics. That could
Yep.
be helping them understand the market better. But whatever that is, these are things I think that everybody should be doing to really have a better experience, the client have a better experience with the agent. And I think it will keep...
And more predictable.
More
Like-
predictable, and they'll stay
Yeah.
bonded together longer through
Yeah.
more. I think the more communication and the more that they know you understand what they're talking about and you're working through these things with them, the more likely they are to stay the course in a difficult market, or any market for that
Yeah.
matter. They'll stay the course with you. So
The only thing I would say, though, also is like listening to their needs, is because the one thing I wanted to ask you, Conrad, is, we've had conversations in the past about managing expectations.
Yeah.
And so, one of the tough things is that when you're trying to create a business where I'm really, catering to people and I want to serve their needs, but how can an agent really help manage expectations when their expectations are above what the market, right? Like the market says your house is this much.
Yeah.
And they're like, no. I know I can get this much. So, how can they help manage those expectations?
It's a deeper dive. Like I think you got to look at the market 10,000 feet in the air, and a lot of people are great, and I see it all the time. People are talking about the board stats, and they just came out a couple days ago, and they're the days on market is 27 days and whatever. But I've always believed in the months of supply. So
Yes.
that 27 days of the homes that are coming on the market and selling. Now we have an inventory issue where 60-day plus inventory is really what I call uninventory, because people are, again, going back to the Amazon world. It's quick and instant, and they're constantly going through inventory. And what most consumers are doing is they're eliminating inventory. So as they're scanning this inventory, they're eliminating. Then they see something, and then they'll do a little deeper dive, and then maybe they'll call their realtor and all that kind of stuff. But it's a lot of elimination until they find something, and that's what we're finding. Even our appointment numbers, even though we have more people in this company, more listings, our appointment numbers are still 30% down from last year, because I think consumers are eliminating a lot of what online. They're doing less showings, and then they're actually pulling the trigger, and it's because their agents are educating them that much more. They're finding out the information on their own, which is unfortunate, because we should be the gateway of all the information. And they're eliminating things much faster, and they're not kicking as many tires as they used to. And even open houses are down too. So you can't even say the showings, open houses replace showings.
No.
They're really doing a deeper
they're down.
dive online. And they're eliminating, and then they're doing things, right? And that's what we're seeing. So don't be afraid that we're down 30%. But if you're in that price point, and we have the data, if you're in that price point, and your home's not getting shown, and that's the number one price point in our showings this week, well then it's the market that's telling you something. And I think you have to be transparent and explain to them, this is what's happening. This is your best chance. If we price it here, okay, this is your best chance. And I don't think people are doing enough of a deeper dive.
To go back to Eric's question and to build on what you just said, Conrad, I think, first of all, Eric, for you to manage their expectations, you need to develop trust. And you develop trust by being knowledgeable and smart and transparent and honest with them.
Yep.
So I think it's a combination of, you show them how competent you are with your stats, your marketing materials, everything that you're doing. And then you use that to develop the trust, so that they know that you're giving them the straight goods and what you're saying is correct.
Yeah.
And that they can trust you're going to guide them through this process. So it's a two-part thing to me:
Yep.
competency, trust,
Yep.
developing that relationship.
For sure. I think I say it all the time. I know Conrad says this all the time, is educate them and put content out. Because if it's the first time, if you hear it the first time when we're sitting down, you're like, you're just saying that because you want the deal.
Yeah.
But if they've seen you putting that content out and educating and saying the same things over and over, and then I sit in front of you and say the exact same thing, you're going, oh, this guy's true to his word.
Right.
Yeah. And it's so hard to measure too, like that kind of success with your clients and that customer service. But what I like to achieve is there's two sentences that I love, and this is the pinnacle of when you get a like when people give you a review or a reference, right? The one is, nobody ever told me that.
Right.
Like you told me something completely like no one has ever sat down and told me that. Now, check mark, you won. And the other one is, they got me. Eric really got me.
Yes.
Lynn really understood. Lynn literally finished my sentence. She got me. She anticipated what I needed before I even knew I needed it.
Right.
So that's the pinnacle. It's not like you're making 7 figures, but when you get reviews that say one of those two comments, you've won. And that's what you have to strive every day. You have to strive for that every day. No one's ever told me that. You're sitting at a listing presentation and said, well, didn't your last realtor tell you this? And they say, no one's ever told me that. Like that's gold.
That's gold.
And if you can do that and achieve that every time you're at a kitchen table, and then at the end of the transaction, if they say to you, hey, you got me, you understood me, you anticipated my needs before I even knew, or some facsimile of that, you won. And let's get on to the next one. Those are those two checks and balances that if that happens to you, it's gold. It's total gold.
One of the things I wanted to ask today was just, you had mentioned something, I heard you the other day, talked about a boutique experience within a larger brand.
Yeah.
Because that to me just speaks to somebody creating a unique client experience. And everybody's different. Everybody has different strengths. So their little boutiques are going to be
they're little boutiques. Right? Yeah.
So just explain that a little bit more, just for the audience.
Yeah, because when you think of boutique, right, what do you think of? You think of something very specialized, right? Specialized, intimate. Okay, it could be upper end, but I think a boutique is very much an experience that denotes that this person has curated some phenomenal gifts or clothes or whatever it might be. And I think if we take that boutique philosophy and bring it to your own team or your own business yourself, I think that's what really resonates with people right now. It's going back to basics, back to being that human thing. And if I can show that I am a boutique, and we've really curated something very special for our client. We've curated special information for our client. That kind of thing. It's a very curated experience. It's tailor-made to you as the consumer, because we know what you need, and it could be something very different than someone else. And I think, to me, that's where it's really going to go. And I think I love the word boutique because it denotes something. We have a very
to me, it's personalized, niche.
Yes,
personalized,
it is. Yes.
That's really what it is. It's like when you see somebody who mass orders, hey, all my clients get the same gift.
No matter what.
Versus, hey, I know you like this.
Yes.
And so if you're a foodie, I know you're a foodie, you like electric cars, whatever. So if I did something in that realm, and then, Lynn's into something else, and so let's say she's into wine, and so now I'm getting special wines for her. That is that boutique.
So we want to power these individual boutique agents and teams. That's what we want to be. We want to be in the background and helping you with technology, data, tools, services that can help you create that boutique experience for your clientele and replicate it over and over again and kind of systematize it. It's much better than a tailor-made. Boutique says way much more than tailor-made or bespoke. Some people don't know what bespoke is.
There's a lot of using that word today. A bespoke boutique experience.
Yeah, but now you're really
Now you're really piling
now that's
on,
next level.
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole and that's
Yeah.
what we're trying to achieve. And a lot of times we get criticized, we're so big and what have you, but we don't lose this field. And I try to roam around the whole region to be everywhere and have great conversations. I went to a recruiting meeting at somebody's house today.
Yeah.
And I know you've done that numerous times.
Or they come to my house.
Or they come to your
Yes.
house numerous
Yes.
times. But there's
But
that
that's
whole
personal,
different.
It's the personal touch, Conrad.
Completely.
And I guess if I put it in an analogy for women or maybe men too for understanding shopping, if you go to a big box store and go shopping, you don't get the same level of services when you walk into that boutique store, the neighborhood store, where they know what your size is, they know the colors you like, they know the styles you like, and they just start pulling it off the rack and showing you what you like, instead of wasting your time sort of
Going through every rack.
So it's again coming down to the old-fashioned idea of listening.
Yes.
Just paying attention.
And knowing your product, knowing the neighborhood, all that deep knowledge that you have and you impart it on your
Yes.
clientele.
And you give it to your clientele, and then they feel that they can trust you because you're the knowledgeable expert, and you're the person who cares about them and knows what they need. And again, I say it all the time, you build a hook. You build that hook with them. What makes them connect with you?
What else
and
does
stay
Lynn?
with
What
you.
else does Lynn know that I don't know?
Right. Right.
And that I need to find out to
And
make
you
this
need to find out.
decision.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So that's what you want to do. So again, that competency part, the listening, all those good things that you've just mentioned are all really critical to this. And I don't think we should tell people they don't have to start with it all at once. Just try doing one or two of these things at a time. Just start adding them into what you do all the time, and it will improve, as you know. 1%.
Yep, it is. Yep.
1% change.
Yeah, and because everybody wants that quick fix, everybody wants, just give me the system.
It doesn't exist.
But I say to everybody, it has to be your system. It has to be your business.
Yeah.
I'm just curious because I know we invest a lot into AI, and we're starting to invest a lot in AI. How do you see that affecting that unique client experience for agents? Because a lot of people are trying to use it for that shortcut.
Yeah.
Right? And so, there's some fear. I've heard some people saying, well, aren't I going to sound just like everybody else? Because AI, the robot's going to put the same thing for you as it does for me. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think. Well, look, I think it goes back, and I've said it before. That deeper dive. I think that's that deeper dive for that consumer. Okay, and
Using AI.
using AI because it's a lot of heavy lifting. So like a great example is our appointments. So we scanned all our appointments for the last 14 years, and we're really focusing on the last 6, right? So we do an appointment report every week. Okay, and by price point and the highest, the 1 day high and all that kind of thing, right? And there's a thing between listings and sales, and there's the delta, the gap between them, and sometimes sales surpass listings and what have you. So we got into July. July shows up. Right, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, what the heck?" Right? You know what I mean? What's going on? What's going on in the market? Like, did somebody not pay the hydro bill? Right? That I thought this morning when my hydro was up. But anyway, so what I decided to do? So we built a bot that analyzes it and does a deeper dive because it would have taken me a long time.
Oh yeah.
So what I did was and again calm everybody's nerves because people were saying to me, "Connor, what's going on with the market? What's going on in the market? Is this the market or is this the seasonal?" The seasonality of it. So what I did was I asked the bot. I said, "Give me the last 6 years of every week that had July 1st in it, and I want you to graph for me the difference between the amount of sales we had and the listings." Now the delta for 2019, 2020, 2021 was pretty much the same. Probably was about 100 deals. Let's say the span between the two of them, but then it slightly changed. So you have to understand, 2022 was the height of the market, March. So 2022, this time, July 1st, we would have started to see, so the delta started to expand just ever slightly. And then we saw it in 2023 and in 2024. It's purely a demand thing because we're seeing demand waning a little bit. But again, it wasn't something monumental. It was maybe 105, 106, the delta. So really, the pattern is still there. It's still business as usual. It's just slightly different, but people are feeling it a little bit more than they may. But the sales are still occurring. The delta between the two is pretty much the same. It's still business as usual. What happened was, I think consumers saw the 25 a 25 basis point drop, and sellers felt, the buyers were going to come in droves in the market, but in turn sellers heard us and said it's going to be a frenzy, so I'm going to put my home for sale, and that's what happened. So we got,
and it did happen,
and it did happen,
and it's happening.
But I think it's beholden upon us to use AI to start to now inform our clients on what is happening more specifically to them. It's not just 5 months of supply. Well, what, in your price point in this neighborhood, it's a lot less.
That's right.
And this is not as bad as you think. And here's the opportunity. I always say this: if I have a client too, and going a little deeper. If I have a client that loves to negotiates the hell out of everything. So you want to negotiate? I'm going to show you the 5 neighborhoods where the list to sales ratio is lower, where there's this gap, there's a delta between the sale price and the list price and the sell price. We have a good shot at negotiating. But if there's something that's tighter, we're not going to go to these neighborhoods. But you see, but they say, well, I want to go to that neighborhood. Well, here, the expectation, I'm managing that expectation.
Yeah.
Say, guys, I can't do that kind of negotiation here because it's a hot neighborhood. Sellers can feel it. It's a different, we're more in seller territory.
Yep.
So I think AI, to me, is going to be able to take all this data and funnel it into something as I profile you as a buyer or a seller, that I'll be able to give you the information to help you make that decision that much faster, with more predictability and more accuracy. And that's the golden ticket when it comes to AI.
It's like having a super smart administrator.
Yes, exactly.
It's just like having all that
statistician
power
beside you.
Exactly.
And they can explain it in a graph and give you the talking points.
So you use that.
Right.
You're the salesperson. You're the negotiator. You're the person that holds and takes them through that. But AI is the person or
but it's not one
resource.
size fits all.
No,
right?
but it's learning how to use that resource and learning the right questions to ask that resource.
Yeah. And the questions ask your client.
Of course.
Like really getting deeper down into what your client is thinking
and what
how
they really
think,
want.
And what they really want.
The old saying was buyers are liars.
Yeah.
Well, buyers weren't liars. They just didn't know what they wanted.
Exactly.
No, but we were shitty listeners.
Exactly.
we're the shitty listeners.
So that's the thing. It all comes down to 2 ears and 1 mouth, right?
Yeah, and I think,
Simple.
and really doing a deep dive into your client's needs,
Yeah.
needs, wants, whatever it might be, and then coming up with that little assistant that you have,
Yes.
like I said, that can put things together for them, right?
Yeah.
And it sometimes it's numbers, sometimes it's emotions, sometimes it's a combination.
It's both.
Yeah, and I
quite
think,
often it's both because you've got 2 people you're working with. So always remember, one person might like stats, one person might like warm and fuzzy. You've got to speak to both sides and be comfortable speaking to both
Identify
sides.
the personalities.
And the cool thing about AI, it does
Yeah.
say to you, it says, you want it in a graph, do you want it in a script,
Yeah.
how do you want it? Right, so there it is, right? You go, here, read this, you read this, you read
You
that.
look at this.
But like I said, it's only going to make us better. It's only going to get to the core of, and this is a trend that's already happening because you can see it. Like I said, we're down 30% in showings. We have more people and more inventory, but people are accessing more information and their agents. We've got great agents at Escarpment and Niagara, and they're helping their clients navigate through this in one way, shape, or form with video or communicating. So the client is getting up to speed on what's happening in the market. So like our slogan is very interesting. I was a kid and I grew up in Hamilton, right? So we would get a lot of Buffalo TV, right?
Yeah.
And there was a store called Sims.
Yes,
Okay,
I remember that.
Sims, and Sims had theirs was a knowledgeable consumer as our best customer. So they were the initial not HomeSense, but winners. They were the original winners.
Yeah.
So they would buy goods that didn't get sold, but they were designer goods. And what they were saying was, when you see the price, if you know the price of this designer good, if you're knowledgeable enough, you're going to know that this is a great fucking buy.
That's right. That's right.
So I always, to me, I grew up with that. And then poor Mr. Lots of competition, he went bankrupt. But I loved that line. So when he went bankrupt, he lost the trademark. And I was able to pick the trademark up, which is fascinating. Because to me, it's always been, if I get the knowledge level of our agents up higher.
Right.
And if I get the knowledge level up of the consumers much higher, then there's, we'll do more transactions.
Yeah.
Transactions will be smoother and all that kind of stuff. So to me, it was always this brokering knowledge.
Right.
And all AI is going to do is help you
Make it better.
broker even better
Better
knowledge,
than
better
before.
quality, better,
Yeah.
focused knowledge that you'll be able to broker. And that's what's going to happen. We're going to be the conduit. We're going to be the broker of that higher level knowledge. But we got to get stuff out of our clients. We
Yes.
still can't you still can't lose that personal and that fact.
You never lose that personal
Yeah,
touch.
so,
And I think to your education part, the day an agent can take a buyer into a home and the buyer understands the value that's in that home and goes, yeah, this is a good deal based on all the things you showed me, on all the information you've given me. I know this is a good home. Let's write an offer
Let's
on
write
it.
an offer,
Yeah.
And that will happen if they know
Yeah.
what it is. If they don't know, you'll be taking them to 30 more houses.
Yeah, and when agents tell me I show these people 60 houses, I say, look
I
in
go,
the mirror,
"Oh
man.
my
Look in
God,
the mirror.
that's no."
The only person you have to blame, the only person is you.
It's you.
Take your. I always say, take that rearview mirror, look at it, and
Yeah.
say, like when I hear a story about people showed 60 houses,
No.
you made a big mistake. You didn't educate your customers. Right?
Or you don't know
your
how to
buyers.
close, one of the two.
Well, look, I'm going to
But
tell
I
you
think
this.
it's the
I
education
think right
most.
now, I think people, if I can, you want to talk about closing. I think if you give them the right information, they will
They know.
close themselves.
That's right.
Really, and
That's what
they'll
I'm
know
saying.
that look, all this makes a lot of sense. When I was selling homes, it's funny. I used to show what the home sold before. I try to calculate square footage,
Right.
the whole 9 yards, just to show people some value. Like, guys, this is so many square feet. Price per square foot is X. The other one we saw is higher per square foot. This is greater value, and do that that post-mortem after we'd see the homes and do those comparisons,
Yeah.
and the more I brought them up to speed and knowledge, the faster. Because I tell everybody I'm the laziest guy in the room. I'm the laziest. I'm not going to show 60 houses, and I know when I did 60 houses, or I never did 60 or 30 in my
No.
career. But I know it was my fault, and I just wasn't
Yeah.
giving them that. I wasn't making the stovetop oatmeal. I was just putting it in the microwave, and I wasn't giving them that time. And it's
Yeah.
because I didn't have systems in place to make sure that I made stovetop oatmeal for them every time. People are going to get tired of the stovetop oatmeal. But you know what I mean? Going that extra mile,
Yep.
that every time. And the only
Yeah.
way you can do that is if you have phenomenal systems and checklists
Yeah.
in place, right?
And we've talked a lot about those.
Yes, I know.
already,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
look back at the podcast for that.
It's interesting. You can have the education, like the knowledge, but how to use it. I remember this one team I was working with, and they thought they knew why people would deal with them, or I said, go ask.
Yeah.
And it was funny where they said they asked their clients, they asked their friends, and they said, you know what? I didn't know what to do first. You guys helped me step through it. So as much as people the clients have a lot more knowledge, what do they do with it? They
Yeah.
don't know what to do with it.
right.
And it's our job, in the real estate world to show them, here's how to interpret that,
Yep.
that data. It's one thing to say, hey, here's the number of new listings, here's the number of houses sold, here's what the average sale price is in your city. And people are sitting there going, who cares?
Yeah.
That's not my house.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
And so if you don't explain it, but that's where you're going to create that experience. Is
Totally.
I'm going to show you have some knowledge. I get that you're looking online. Because if I don't take on that, job of understanding the knowledge, taking in the knowledge and explaining it back, then why do they need me?
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah.
So
No,
that client experience has to be, okay, you've learned some knowledge, but now I'm going to show you how to use that to get the right home, to see the value that you're talking about.
And it's you
Yeah.
mentioned something really near and dear to my heart is that what they thought their value proposition or why people were coming to them. So can you imagine if they went to all their people and asked certain questions and then they loaded all that into a bot and said, hey bot,
What are my best features?
write my why people are attracted to me, okay?
Yeah.
What's my biggest selling
Yeah.
feature and all that kind of stuff. Why are we successful? All the thing,
Right.
and then create a whole ad campaign and all that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
create a listing presentation or whatever it is. But you need that beautiful, rich data,
Yes.
which doesn't take long, and then the right prompting. Like you can imagine how quickly we can get to a point where I always say success leaves clues. So if there's things and elements in that questionnaire that you can start to now upload into a bot and then create this whole a whole culture, your brand, your brand promise, what you as a realtor promise to give to your clients, then let's systematize it.
Yeah.
Now create a system around this, around trust and loyalty and market, all the kinds of things that these people talked about. Now let's create a system around it. That's what AI is.
Yeah, we had a long discussion on one of the episodes around getting the agents to ask their clients what it was that they liked about the experience, what they thought they did well. And I will guarantee that most of the time you don't really know what the real thing is. You might think it's one thing and they're going to say, well, you were a great negotiator, or you did this and this and this for me, but you don't know unless you ask, so you need to ask, and then you can sort it through AI and see if you can come up with a something that's a strong point or strong points, and then use that each time you're doing a listing presentation.
Yeah, you learn your strengths. And then from your strengths, you attract the right type of people.
But some people don't know their strengths either.
No, for sure,
And
but that's why you ask.
They need to ask somebody.
Right? Yeah.
And that's why I still think you need to ask and find out what other people think about you. A lot of times people are very humble, and I ask them, well, what did you do great? And they go, I don't know. They're just very humble. So you got to drag that out of them a little bit.
Well, yes, you mentioned that answering the phone. And I know some of our top agents, and if you ask them why you're successful, because you answer the phone. Yeah. And that's why we're very much the same.
Because we answer our phone.
I had an agent that called me, and she said, Conrad, and she said, from another company, not even with our company. She goes, you're old school like me. You answer your phone. And I said, look, when I saw the phone, and I know you're busy, and I know her number, I know you're busy. If I don't answer this phone, I like, we're going to play this terrible tag and what have you. So we can cut through it, get it done, and move on. And it's just so much better and so much more.
The devil's in the
more
details.
efficient. It's more efficient. Yeah. And
devil's in the details.
Yeah. So it's something important, that connection, right?
Yep.
Very much.
Listen, we so appreciate your time. We
I love
you're
doing
so busy.
this. No.
So for those out there in the audience, I mean, there's a lot of information here. We encourage you, write in your questions. I'm going to put Conrad's number. No, I'm not going to put your. No, but seriously, if you have any questions, please send them in to us, tbore, TBORE at rmxemail.net. We'll make sure that if you want to ask Conrad a question, we'll forward it on to him. But
or if you want a deeper dive into a topic and give us some ideas, this is a two-way street. We'd love to create some course or some material in and around some of those questions, right? That that people are asking, right?
For sure. Yeah. So we thank you guys for joining us this week. Make sure, as usual, subscribe, like, follow us. We're on so many different channels. We thank you guys every single week for being here, and we will see you next week on the Business of Real Estate podcast.